continue from where we stopped. So today we'll be talking about filling the area between lines. We are going to be filling between colors, like areas between two lines, like filling between two lines. So I'm still going to be using Jupyter, so I'm going to type Jupyter Lab, and this is actually going to open for me on the browser. So we're still working with Matplotlib and NumPy. So on this, once it open, then I will assume few numbers, and then we are going to be using that. So for this, we are still going to be using what we are using. So this I am going to create the same way we go to new notepad, notepad, and then select, and then we can rename this. Either you right click here, you see rename, and then we are going to be working on filling the area between lines. So you fill the area between lines. So on this, like this, filling the area between lines. So we rename it to this. So on this, we are still using NumPy. So I'm going to do import Matplotlib. Pyplot, the same way we used it before as plp, and like I said, you can call it anything. So you can still do import NumPy, because like I said, what we're focusing on is NumPy, and then Matplotlib. So these are two libraries we are going to be using now. And then since basically we are looking at filling between two lines, and this can be used in several ways, especially when you are doing analysis. So for that, so we are going to choose the variable x, and we are going to use the NumPy array to now make an arrange between, let's say, 0.0, and we are also going to make another array with the 2, and then we're also going to use 0.01, and we close it up, and then this is our x. We go to y1, so we are going to still use NumPy, and now let's use sign. Remember when we're talking about maths, a keyword, so we are going to be using that, and we are going to say multiply by NumPy dot pi, that is, which is pi as mathematics. So we now multiply by x, and we close this. So, and we also want to input like y2, so I'm going to say y2 is equal to, let's use any number, but let's use 0.5, and we are going to multiply it by NumPy, and then we use sign, and for let's say open bracket, and then we also multiply by NumPy dot pi, and we multiply it as well with x. So with this, we have created the two variable like what we want to use on. So the next thing is to call the figure, which like we used to do. Then we are going to say that in the axis of x1, that is a1, ax1, so we also want to plot ax2, we also want to plot ax3, that is axis, then which is going to be equal to, and we say plt, which is from NumPy, Matplotlib, sorry. Then we are plotting a subplot, and the subplot we are going to be working on is that we need it in 3 different places, because we have x, we have y1, and y2. So on this, so we are going to say the num plot. So we are going to have how many row, we're going to say we need 3 rows, and how many columns? We need 1 column. And what is the positioner? So we can say that it's going to be to share the x. So for sharing of x, yes, because that's going to be true. And on this, we are also going to probably say in the what is the size of the figure if we want. So we are going to say figure, the size of the figure which we are going to be working on is going to be equal to, let's make them the same size, so let's put them, let's see 6 comma 6, and we close the bracket. And this, after this, what else are we going to do? Let's now start filling in the gap. Like I said, we are working on filling area between lines. So now to fill in, so we're going to say that ax1, but we want to fill in, so I'm going to use fill between. So in the fill, I'm going to say fill between want to fill between x comma y. That's the first fill we want to do. So let's do x comma y, and then what else do we need to fill in again? No, x comma y1, because we don't have y, because we wanted to make the y into different two. Then what else are we going to do again? In the aspect of a1, we also want to set the title. So we're going to say set the title to be what? So to make it what we put, so we're going to call this, we say fill between, we can say fill between y1 and then 0. This is what we want to use on this. And then let me copy this as well, because we're supposed to make 3. Remember, we created 3 axes. So I'm going to paste this. This has to go a bit backward. Then I'm also going to copy this again. Let me copy and then go down and then return back to origin and paste this. So when I have this, I can make modification on this. So what do I want to make? Remember that x is what is here we have. So we have x1. So let us add the next plot position, which is 1. Then what are we going to fill? So here we're going to fill in between this and 1. Then we also make this same one. We have x1, y1. So remember we have y2. So let's bring in the variable of y2 here. Then what are we filling? So we say this one is going to be filling between y and then y2. Then when that happens, we can now make a kind of label. So in this, remember we have ax1. So let me edit this to 2. Then let me edit this to 2 as well. This is supposed to be edited to 3, and this also be edited to 3. So now we have the axis of 1 to 3, but in the axis of 1 to 3, so let us label the axis of 1, that is 3. So we say axis of 3, sorry, so the axis of 3 dot, we say set the label now. So it is going to be set underscore x label. Then we are going to label it, because that is the part we have x. So let's label it with x, and then, sorry, there's a mistake, we close the bracket, and then we also need to set the axis of y. So in this, what are we going to do? We are going to call the figure, and in the figure we say that it has to be a type underscore layout, and then we close it up. So with this, we run this. So it says there is an issue here, fill between. Yes, that's true. So it's supposed to be double quotation, it's also supposed to be double quotation, and it's also supposed to be double quotation. So we run the code again, and then it says here we're having issue that it's supposed to take 3 positional element, and then that should be in share 6. So we go back to the code. We have the figure of ax1, ax2, and ax3 supposed to be subplot of 3 comma 1 comma share x supposed to be true, and then the figure size, that is fig size, supposed to be 6 comma 6. Okay, then what is the problem again with the next one? It says here the subplot argument is what is wrong. So the subplot takes 1 or 3 positional, but we 2 are given, so it means the place we're having issue is takes here, but we use 3 2 1 here. So in this case it takes 3, but I used 1 here. So what is the problem here? 3 and 1. Let me check out something, and that takes you number must be greater than number must be an integer with 1 or not less than 0. I think I'm still having a kind of issue here. This must be an instance of 5 based on this does not belong. So what is the problem? So this is 3 comma 1, then supposed to share x, supposed to be true, and then commas, the size supposed to be 6 comma 6. Okay, the problem is subplots, and here it is saying, so this is exactly what I need, but it's saying that the axis object has no attribute fill between. Okay, so the problem now is axis fill between, and fill between which was line 7, that is 1 2 3 4 5 6 7. So I have fill between, so I think the mistake here is supposed to be between, that is BE. Here also supposed to double E, here also supposed to be double E, and when I run this I have this right now. So the issue now, there's no error, but the issue now is with the data. So in here I have 0 and I have 0 2 here. This is supposed to be a different number, not 0. So let's check the output. So this is how we can fill in between numbers. So from the modulation we can see here, because we say here, we'll only say here to label x label, which we have the x here, and then in the y label there's no label, but here we have that s1 start from 0, that is x0 2 and back to 1. So you can see here 0, and then you move up and then back to 1. So if you divide them by 2, that is 0.01, so it goes in here. Then that's the same thing that happened. This is 0 0.5 0 1 here, negative 1 here, then this is 1 and this is 0 0.5. so with this you can create this as it is. So with this you are filling in between the line. So in some cases you have other cases where you have a kind of plot where you need to show the confidence interval. So there are different ways this can be done, and like I said, in many cases this you use this. So with this you will be able to fill in between the gap like this. This comes in here and this goes there. So this is the filling between y1 and 0. So if you return back here, y1 is the sine of 2 multiplied by n, dot pi multiplied by x. What is x? This is x here, which it arranged in 0, 2 and 0.1. So this is a simple example where you can code in some formulas into you. So and then with this you can fill in between the lines, that whichever line you want to fill. So there are other parameters, like you can make selection marking the horizontal region if you want to a kind of mark a horizontal region that you want to mark. Like what I'm trying to say is, let's take for example that here, let me use ax, that is, let me start with a figure. So we say figure of axis, the axis should be plt dot subplots. Then and we want to do this here, so plt dot subplot, and we want to define that our x is equal to, so we see say numpy, as we are using numpy, then dot arrange, then you say arrange it to 0, 4, then you say multiply by np, which is dot pi, and then comma, you still use the same thing we use, 0.1, and then you close this up, and then you go for y, and let's assume that y is still the same thing, numpy dot, we say sign like we use in the other one. So like we said, sign is the keyword, so you multiply it by x, and then you now say axis dot plot for me the x here, comma y, and sorry, plot for me x, comma y, then comma, let's now say plot x, comma y, then you close it up, and then let's use the threshold where you want to that is the threshold where you want to mark at the end of the day. Let's say the confidence interval you want to map is, let's say 70%, so you always use 0.70, and then that is the threshold we want to mark, and we can say that ax dot ax, that is the h line, which is the horizontal line, will be the threshold. Then the threshold, then we can say, let's make it a color, that let's say a color of, let me put blue, so I'm going to say blue. Then what is the weight, line weight? So for the line weight, let's make the line weight is equal to 1. Then what should we make the transparency? So the transparency, let's make it 0.5, because 1 might not be the best. So now what else are we supposed to do again? So we now say s dot fill, because we're interested in making fill. So we say fill between, x, then 0, and then 1, and where y is greater than the threshold. So let's say the threshold, so let's say y is greater than the threshold, and then let's make the color of the the what we want to use as, let's see, retain it as blue, and then let's make the transparency as, let's use 0.5, and then let us transform it. So let us make a kind of transformation, so let's transform it. So let's transform it into the transform is equal to, let us say that ax dot get us the axis. So let's get the axis, x axis, So with this, we should be able to have the way we fill this up. What's wrong? It says the x has no kind of transform. Okay, so it's supposed to be transform, not transform. So I run it again and I have this, but it still maintain that there is no axis. Object has no attribute like get axis. So get is supposed to be get axis, supposed to be ax a dot x get x axis, because that is what we define, not ax. So with this, we have this up here. Now you can see now that we fill in between here, our confidence interval, like we say, is 0.70. Assuming the confidence interval is 90. So let me assume you are looking at 90. If you run this, you see that this is at 90. So this is a way you can, assuming you are making a kind of plot and you do land cover and wanted to show us the mark across what you want to show. This is a perfect way you can show. So you can see the confidence interval. This is what it run across like this. So we are able to use this to get that done. So this is a perfect way you can get a kind of this done. So if you do like this, also here you can also pass the color, whatever color you want. Let me say that I want to make the color is equals to, and I say that I want it in red. So I can run this and then you see this having a red color. Now this one is showing a color that it likes, so you can always change the color just like the same way you have been passing color to it. So you can change the color to red, you can change the color to black, and you can change the color to whatever you want to change it to. Like here we are using blue, so if I change this to green and then run the same thing, you should be able to see this having a green color. So whichever way you want, you make that done. So from here, remember we're putting here as red, which is the threshold. The threshold here, the color. So let me put this thing as A, and then if I run it, you will see the black here. The transparency is 0.5. If I make it to 1, it means that the transparency is going to be high. You can see this showing purely dark. So if I want to change this and make it to white, so the white probably might not be showing, but you are going to see the white cutting across it because you have another background. So that's why white might not be the right color. So we can make it yellow. If you make it yellow, you definitely see that this shows you the yellow line. So with this, you can add the title as you want, and then you can fill it up that way. So this is a way you can perfectly show when you have to fill in between line. So you can see we perfectly plotted the kind of threshold of 90, and like I said, if you want to change the interval you want, you can reduce it from 90. If you want to make it 50%, it's 0.5, and you plot on this, and you should be able to see it having here as 0.5. And remember, this is -1, this is 0, and you see here the threshold you cut here is 0.5. So this is a way you can fill in between line. And one more thing that I want us to work on quickly is the way. So I will change this from code to markdown, and then I'm going to type here that, so we should be looking at a way you can do something like discrete distribution as, let's say horizontal. Let's use horizontal, we change it to vertical, or let's say horizontal bar chart. Now what do I mean here? Let me take, for example, you collected the data in the field. Like sometimes we do a kind of statistical analysis, and you have some people saying that I strongly agree, I disagree, I completely agree, or sort of things like that. Or very poor, averagely poor, or sort of things like that. So we can use Python in plotting such kind of data. So we have already done this, so I don't want to repeat the same thing. So but you can put your data. So let's take for example that we have different category, and then we say that we have the category of let's say the different names we want to use. So let me go ahead and use category name. So let's say because we are using category names, so let's put them in lists. So in putting them in list, so we can start from the beginning and say the first we need to put is, let's say, strongly. Let's put the strongly disagree. Then the next option can be disagree. Let's say, let's put up with disagree. And then another variable we can look at again is, let's say, after you disagree, somebody can agree or not agree. So let's put another variable like neither the person agree, that is neutral sometimes, next time nor disagree. So neither the person agree or disagree. Then the person, next variable we can check again is the person agree, and then another one we can check again is the person strongly agree. So I'm going to say strongly agree. I think this how to write it. So we put them in a list, and when that is done, so we have defined a category. So in these categories, like a kind of scale, we call it as a scale. The person say I agree or I disagree, and they have a lot of data to analyze. It can be in the table, it can be in different form, but let me assume that you have made the summary of the data, and let's assume that at the end of the day you have a kind of the result that this person is agree and he disagree. So let's assume that at the end of the day you have a kind of different question which somebody agree and some people disagree. So let's put them in dictionary. In question 1, so let me use Q1. In question 1, the person, the agreement is that they are different, maybe they are different kind of categories, and then in question 1 about, let's say, 5% agree. The next question 10% agree, strongly disagree. Then let me put a random number and then put 20 here, and let's make it 5 questions. So let me put 13, and then I will close up the list. Now to make this fast, remember we are using dictionary, so this is the key. So I'm going to put the key. So by using the question, let me put question 1, and then we are using the dictionary, so it is necessary I put it up that way. So I'll put comma and I press enter, then I'll go to question 2. Let me make it to question 5. So this is question 2, this is question 3, question 4, and question 5, and that's supposed to be having a kind of open and close until we get to the last one here. We close it, we press enter, and we close the dictionary. Now on this we change this to question 1, 2, sorry, question 3, question 4, and let's see we have question 5, and then on this we have added this. So let me put up 5 here, let me put up 12, let me put up 18, 19, let me put up 23, and let me make this 1, let me make this 5, let me make this 11, sorry, let me make this 18, let me make this 22, let me make this 3, let me make this, let's say, 30, let me make this 4, let me make this 18, let me make this 21, 13, let me make this let's say 17 here. Let me change this to 63 is much, or we can still use it, and let me change this to 1, let me change this to, let's say, 12, let me change this to 21, and let me change this to 18. Now this is the different 5 questions we have, and then you collected the data can be much or bigger than this. So but this is like an assumption. So we want to now work on the survey. So for us to get, let's define a function that we're going to call on. So on the functions, let's pass the result which we have here. So I'm just going to copy this result here and then paste it here. And then we also need to put the category names which we have collected. So we are putting the category. These are two items we want to pass into the function, and when we define that, we can also define different parameters. So let's go into this putting up is, and we can say that what are we looking at? We look at the parameters. What parameters are we looking at? So let's make it looks like we want to break it up, and we can say that the results which we have gotten, then we let us have a kind of a way we are going to have a kind of dictionary, and we can say let's say this is a survey we got from feed survey. So let's just write anything up here. So when we finish that and we are okay with it, so we are going to now say, in this case we are finished with whichever I want to put it up, then we can now go ahead and put them. This is the result here as dictionary. So for this we can, let us put it up like this, and then so that we have a good arrangement. So this is software we have. So what do we need to do? Let us put the category name. Now that's the result. We have actually done a dict. So let's put the category name which we have as the list of the strings. So let's put the list, make it the list of the SRT, and then with that we can now say, let us now have a kind of the categories of the label. So in this case, so we're going to have the categories, the category of the labels, and then when this is done, we can close up our this, so which is stopping us now from this. So now let's go in and say in labels which we have. Now let's pick up the list which we have and then pass the result here which we have stated here. So I'm going to pass the result in the list, and then using the key. What is the key? The keys of this is question 1, question 2, question 3, and this is a way we can pass it up, and then we close it up like this. And then what data are we going to be using? We are still using the data, so now we still have to use the NP arrays. So we're going to say the NP arrays, and then we call the list, which is what we have defined in there, and then we call the list, and then the lists of the result which we have here, exactly what we have here. So the list of these results which we have here, then dot the values. What are the values? Those numbers we define inside there. So the values, so let me close with two brackets, 1 2 3. So we're supposed to close with 3 parentheses. And then what else do we need to do? Let us make the data. So from what we have, let us now add up the data. So let me say data sum, or let's make it cumulative because we are adding all of them. So when we add all of them, the addition is going to be the data, which is what we define here as the NP arrays of all the values. So it's going to be the data which we have, then we sum it up with the cumulative sum of all the data we have here, so that it is going to be in the axis that is of 1. So in this, it's going to be in the axis of 1. And then we also need to define the categories of the colors. How do we want the colors to be? So we can say the colors, that is the color category. So let's say the categories of the color, because we are going to use the categories of, so the category colors for each of them. So we are going to say the category colors is going to be the color RAM. So let's use the PLT and call the color RAM, the color maps we have here. Then with this we can call any color map that we want. So for this case there are different of them, so like we have done in the beginning. So let's use this and then call this and then green. So let's use red, yellow and green, and then as a list. So it's supposed to be a color because we are trying to get it off from the list. So let's use the red, then the yellow, then the green, and then we now pass it in lists, and then that is a list. Then we now go ahead and then what is that is remaining, we now go and say the NP, which is the line, the limit here, and then it's going to be the space of, we say the space of 0.15, and then we can also make it, what space do we want it again? Let's make it 0.8. we can, since we are saying 0.5, then what extent, so we can also say that what is the shape we want it to be. So the shape we want it to be is that we want to pick it from 1, that is it have to goes in parallel. So we put up the shape and then we close up the bracket here. And then what else are we supposed to do? So we are done defining our data, so we can quickly now call for, so let me press enter again. What else are we supposed to do again? So we can also now say, let's call the figure we want to plot, and then we say that the AX, which is going to be, it's going to be a PLT dot subplot. It's going to be PLT dot subplot, and then we are going to plot the figure size. So what figure size we are going to use? So let us start define the color, the figure size we are going to use. So for the figure size, we can say here, let's say that the figure size we are going to use, let's use 9, and then how many? So since we have 5, so let's pass 5 to it because it is the number, total number is 5. Then we'll close this up. Yeah, is that okay? Yes. So we close it up with 2 bracket because here in subplot, and then we're supposed to have here because it is going to be into 2. And then when this is done, what are we going to do? Let's change the AX and invert it because it's not going to be in that. So we are going to use the invert keyword. So invert it to y-axis, and when you invert it to y-axis, what else are you supposed to do again? So we are still going to plot the AX, and we are going to say x-axis, then we dot set the, how do we want it? We want to set the visible have to be false. So in this way we need to say the visibility, that is whether do we want it to be visible. So I'm going to say the visible, and that is going to be false because we don't want it to be visible. So I'm going to say false here. And how do you make order this? So now in the AX we now set up, what are we setting up? So we can choose, okay, what is the limit of the X limit? So let's start with it. So let's make it AX, and then we say that the X limit is going to be, let's start with 0, and then to what extent it is going to be the total number of the lengths of the sum of the data we are going to use. So the sum of the data we have, so it's going to be the sum of the data, and then we are going to say it's going to be in the axis. What axis? So we are going to use the axis of 1, which is what we use, and which is going to be, you multiply by what is the maximum. So we choose what is whatever that is the maximum when it finish a multiplication. So when we are done, we can close this of the bracket. So what else are we going to do now? So now we are going to go in and start making a kind of iteration inside there. So with this, I'm just going to say here for the data which we can use anything one. So for I, we can say the column name. So we are going to say the name of the column here, and we say label with the color. And then when we label it with the color, we close it up, and then we now enumerate. So enumerate. So enumerate is a keyword, and we say all of them should be zip and into this category name here. So the category names which we have here, so all of them should be in that format. So the category name which we have, and then we need to also say the category colors, which is what we have here. So I'm just going to copy this and paste it here. So we close this up. So because we are trying to get this done, so we are going to now say for x, which this is wrong, it's supposed to be this, yeah. So because it's supposed to have indentation. So with this, we can now say here, let's start defining how we want it to be. So I'm going to go into the width, what width do we want. So I'll go into the width and say the width is what I'm not setting. So it have to be, remember this, where we have this from whatever it is to the I which we are trying to define. This is what the width is going to be. And then what else are we going to do? Where is it going to start? So we can have a kind of starts. We're going to have a start. So what is the start going to be? So we can start from where the data. So for us, let's start from, we're going to take a start, and the start is going to be where the data which we use here at the cumulative here. So it's what we are going to use as where we are going to start. So with this, so what we repeat the same thing we did above, because we wanted to start from wherever. So we are going to do this the comma, the I. Then what else are we supposed to do? Remember that when you finish this, we need to make sure that it focuses minus the total. So it means that we need to remove whatever we have from the width like this. So when we remove that from the width, so the width which we have defined, then what else do we need to do again? We can also say how do we want it to react. So let's go with react. So in this, we can now say that we want the AX, and then we need it in horizontal. So we will always look back as BH, and then we now label it with the width which we have defined. What else again do we need to do again? We can also, how do we want to label it? So I want it to start from the left here, because that is where it starts. So here, let us make it start from the left hand side. It should be where it is going to start. So in that, I'm going to say the starts have to be on the left hand side. And what is the height do we want to put it? So we can also put the height, and the height we are going to put, let's use 0.5 as the height. Then what else are we supposed to also do again? We can also label it. So let us label this with what? So we are going to label it with the columns name. Remember the columns name here, like strongly like what we define. So we are going to label with the columns name. So what is the columns name? We define the columns name here. So we're going to label it with the columns name. So the labels we're going to be using, which is label, is going to be with the columns name. So let me just paste this, and then what color do we want it to be? So it has to be a color which we define color, big color. So with this, we can close this up. And then what else are we supposed to do again before we run it? let's put the, remember we put red, we say red, we say red. So we up here when we're defining the color, so let's put the color in maybe RGB. So in this we're going to use the R, we're going to use the G, and we're going to use the B, and which is what we are calling color. So it have to go that way. So how do we want it to be? So we go into the text color now. So I'm going to say the text color which we want is, we can choose a text color. What color do we want it to display on the body? So for me, I would prefer, I can choose black, but sometimes black will not be looking good on me, so let's just use any color. So for me, let me use white for now, so I can always change that. That is when, if it is arrow, that is multiplied by G, and also multiplied by the blue, which we assume, let's say it is less than 0.5, and then S, if it is not that way, then let us make it dark. So let's make it dark gray. So with this, what it means is wherever it is not, the color is not matching, so it should make it to what it is. So with this, we have defined the text color. What else are we supposed to do? Let us now come with the axis, which we have the bar now, because it's going to go into bar, and then we are going to label the bar label. How are we going to label it? We are going to label it with this, which is the way it is here. So we're going to label this with, what are we labeling it with? We're going to label it this, and what is the label type we are going to use? So let's talk about the label type. The label type, how do we want it to be? I want the label type to be at the center of it, so it's not left. So for me, I would prefer it to be at the center. And then after the center, what color do we want to use? So let's go to the color. In the color, let's use the text color. So for me, I'm going to use the text underscore color, which is what is here, the text color here. Then we close it up. What else are we supposed to do again? Let's put the legend, because this is really necessary. So we can now go ahead and now say ax dot legend, because we need to put up the legend there. But even if we don't want to put up the legend, so let's finish up with this. So we can now say this, let's say here, and let us return the fi, the fig, and then ax. So when we return it, what do we supposed to have now? Remember, we have defined the solver. So if we now say solver, and then we call the result. So let me also copy the result here, the way we call this, which is what we have here, which we pass, what we pass into this function. So if we call what we pass into this function, what will happen? Then we can now say plt.show to show us the plot which we plotted. And if we run this, it says data npra invalid syntax. Okay, yeah, because this is supposed to be one, and I'm using 2, that is under label. So it's supposed to be where, under the category. So it's supposed to be np array. So there is nothing like that. So let me, here we have this, and then the data supposed to be np array, and the mistake there is that it's supposed to be a kind of equal to, and we run this, and it says that the color here, which is on line, this supposed to be color. So my bad, so I'm supposed to mix it up with this. And then when we run this, it also says there is no attribute like subplot, has no attribute. So let me check where we have subplot here. It's supposed to be subplot. Which line is that? It says 25 fix ax. So subplot 9.2 2. Where is it? So it's supposed to be subplot. And let me also run it again. And this one says there is nothing like sub, has no attribute like subplot. Okay, we have sub, it's supposed to be subplot, not subplot. So let me run it again. It says the name false is not defined. So which line is that? Line 27, where it says the name false is not defined. Under AX, that is inverted, the name false was not defined. So false supposed to be false. So in this case, so it's supposed to be false, and we have changed it up. Then what is the issue again? It says the width, which is line 32, width, line 32, where we have the width, the bar, and left and right. So we go here. What is the problem here? It says label dot width. So it's supposed to be bar, which is the horizontal bar, supposed to be bar label dot width. So in this case, so what are we supposed to do when we have bar BH, then supposed to be labels, comma, width left start. So it ought to be like this. Now what is the problem again? So the problem we're having here is too many values to unpack. It expected 3. Too many values to unpack. It expected 3. So let me go back to the category where we define our solver. So when we're doing a kind of definitions, so we have results, we have categories, and what else are we missing here? So we have we needed 3, and then I have 1. Okay, so let me correct this. So we say this is a feed solver here. What is the next one again? So let me make it write anything here, and then what is the next one again that have this entry? So then let me go down, and I say since it is category, let me say it matches with the length of, so let's say here it have to be the same thing. Length of, because it have to be this length, the same length of the category name. So in this, so we go in here, and then confusing, you have to be the length of, we now copy category name here, and then paste it here, and let's, so here it says it expected solver category is expected 3, but we have 2. So let me go ahead and check what is the problem. The solver, this is 1, 2, and it expected 3. So but I continued here line 39 plot show. So it's supposed to be results and category name and plot show. So what's the problem? Too many value to unpack, expected 3. Okay, so let me check RGB. So RGB is equal to the color, and because it is more, let me put comma and say underscore is equal to color, and this have given me more than 3 because it is more than 3, and with this I have 3, 10, 14, and this have given me a perfect result that I want. Now let us a bit make increase number to question 2 and question 3. So let me assume that the question size is the same thing, so let me add 10 to 2 instead of 1. So let me make this 10, and then let me also make this 30, and let me run this, and when I run this is better, then I can increase the first one maybe 3, the first one here 3, let me make it 13, and then I'll run the same thing, and this is better. So we can appreciate this 5 5. So let me make this instead of 5 5, I can make it 12, and then I can make this 15, and I will run it again, and then this is up like this. So we have strongly agree, and all of them are up to this. So what else are we supposed to do again? We can decide to label them, but before we label them, we can put the title whichever we want it, or what is necessary now is let us put something like let's put the legend. And how do we put the legend? So let's put the legend right under here before we now do return. So on this we can say the axis dot legend legends, then in the axis dot legend, so how many legends? Let's put with the number of columns, so which is going to be the keyword of number of columns, and is going to be the length of the category data. So it's going to be the names of the categories. So I'm going to put this here, and then what else is it again? So we also need to define the bounding box. So I want to define the bounding box. So with this I'm going to say the bounding box is going to be anchored with, so anchor. So and the anchor is going to be start from the 0 and 1. So it's going to be 0 and 1, and then what else are we supposed to do again? So let's now, but where do we want it? So let's put up the location. So I want the location to be where should it be the best place? Let's say lower right, and then what is the font size? So let's say font size, let's make the font size let's make it small, and then we can close this and we run it again to see. Oh, it says there is no object like legend. So legend, there is no n. So we run it again and we have this perfectly. So we say that is the lower left. What did I use? The lower right, no? So let me, because I inverted it, it's supposed to be lower left. So now when I run the lower left again, let's see. So now it is perfect for me. So we have strongly agree, strong disagree, neutral, then yellow. So assuming I want to put blue, so here that I pass this. So this is a key word. Where is it again? So this is where am I looking for it? Why am I not seeing it? So I wanted to show how we can change the colors to something we want. So what the whole thing is here, where the color cannot be seen, so we'll change to dark gray. So if I say if the color cannot be seen well here, help me make it blue. So if I do the same thing and run it, we see that here is now blue because of the color. Okay, let me change 5 1. Let me redo the one that is 33, and then put this 11, and then reduce this to here 23. I think that should be better. So this is like a data like version, and you can see here, remember this data is supposed to be of the same size because maybe you collected the same question. From here to here, what is the length? 10 10 10. So if we add 30 here, let's say if I add up the length, we'll be able to see, make it rhyme to what it's supposed to be. But this is 10 20 11, so it means if I let me add 14 here, 14 here, and we run the same thing again, and we should be having something better. Yeah, so this is exactly what I'm talking about. So all of them is supposed to be the same size, but I just pick a random data and then just decide to plot it. So you can also add a title. So you can also add a title whichever way you want it. So you can add a title, you can add, this is the legend, you can add a title, you can add X level depending on how you want it. So this is a perfect way you can plot a data where you want to show the strong, this is strongly agree or disagree. I was actually looking for a particular thing I wanted to explain to you, where you can change. I don't, it's taking me time to see the line like here. So you have yellow, so here, so this is not a keyword. RGB is not known a common. So for this, you remember what we say, the color maps, we can always go to show help, and when you come here and you click on color map here, you will see different colors here. Like I say, this is a different color. So if you see here, you see copper, magma, and rest of them. So this is for mapping. You see this different color here. Let me assume that I say copy here, and I come here and I paste this and I run this. What's supposed to be, this is another color. So you can see these are different ways you can get the color. Let me copy this and come to binary, and then what is it again, and paste the binary here, and then by run this, you see another color. Then let me also remove this and replace it with bone. So I'm going to say bone, and then run it again, you see another color. So what I'm saying, let's use this accent. So you return back here, and then you replace this accent with this, and then run the code again, and you see this. So what I'm trying to say is, here you don't need to carry these colors in your head. So by using this method, you should be able to know which color do you want to use. So you can see here the way it is. So this is the one we used before. Now this is different other ones you can use. Look at this, you can copy and then come here and pass the keyword. Where is it again? Okay, so this is it here, the color round. You paste this and you run it again, you see another color order. So this looks beautiful. So but you see here where we say here change it with this, remember that when we are changing the colors, we need to make it look nice. So this is a perfect way you can make. This is question 1, question 2, question 3, and question 4. So once we are done, this is done for me, and you can return back here, and I'm going to go here and say git add, then git commit. So commit it to the main, and what did we do? I'm going to call, what should I use this perfectly? I'm going to call it let me say history. So I can go back there here and copy the title. So let me go down here, return here, and copy this. So let me do here and just copy this, and then return back here, and then paste it here, and then push it, and that is going up. So it's going to load, and it says everything is up to date. So I don't know. Git status. So there is nothing much modified here. So with this, I can close this up. I'll just show you how we can bring this up. So I can close this up, and you see pretty much of what we have done. You can see it here, so you can save this. So if you look at this code, for example, if I copy this here and then return here, and since we're using Matplotlib, so I can just come here and then paste this, then this, I can run it, and you can see this. You can see it up is still coming. What happened is running, and what happened is still coming up, and you see here, this is the result of what we did. So with this, you can see where you have strongly disagree, neither disagree nor agree. There's neutral. You can see agree and strongly agree. So this is a perfect way you can do this. So I can click on this, and then in wherever I want, let me go to download. I can save it up here, and can save this up like any format you want, and then this is done. And once you finish, you can always return to the terminal of what I was trying to do. So I'm going to say git add, and then git commit, that is git commit, and then you can say git push front to upload to GitHub, and that is going to run and says everything is up to date. I don't know, does not match any known file. Let me check what is the problem, because it's not looking nice. Git commit to the main. Alright, this is better, and git push, and that is perfect and cool. So it have been updated or uploaded. So with this, I can stop this, and this is where I'm going to stop.